Good morning. I'm sure that you have several questions regarding this Saturday Soul and Ensemble event, especially regarding weather. Who knew that COVID would be the least of our hurdles and problems for this weekend? Our office just recently sent out a statement to host asking them to contact you and directors by 2:30 Friday whether they're going to cancel option 1 and move to the weather date on February 12th, whether they're going to try to produce the event on a 2-hour delay, or whether they're going to go on as scheduled. That communication will happen to help you with travel, make decisions on what you can and can't do. There's no need to contact our office or your host until that time, because with the current weather and today's accumulation in ice and snow, things may change. If you have a hotel reservation, check with them on cancellation. That might help us and you're being stuck with a bill, those kinds of things. But if you haven't heard before the time you need to head out on Friday or Saturday morning, of course, please contact your host via either text or email, but include me on that conversation as well, just so I know where we are with status. I'll get a lot of those. If you can't make your site or you become ill, obviously safety is very important, and keeping you healthy is very important right now, specifically with what we're still going through with COVID and mask. Please text me or email me along with your host. I'll be trying to find the replacement judge, but the host needs to know how to handle the management of their site, obviously. So include both of us on that. That's if you can't do that after you get the notification on Friday whether your site is still going. All right. Be flexible. It's very important that dealing with this bad weather, that especially with a 2-hour delay, or if your site has a missing judge, you could be asked to adjudicate solos from a different room. Make sure you have the correct sheet with the correct label and also the medal card for that performer, or if it's an ensemble performers. Thanks for your flexibility. Thanks for your help. Thanks for being on Team ISMA, but make sure that you have the right tools to give that evaluation. All right. Again, thanks. If your site is canceled and moved to the weather date, I'll contact all the judges that are affected after the weekend. So it'll be Monday for sure. Don't email me as far as your availability, whether you can or can't judge. I may lose that in the multiple emails and texts I get on Saturday regarding weather and situations of, even rules and regulations for the regular event. I don't want to lose it in all the emails that I happen to get. To help you prepare, I'm going to attach to this email my judge instructions for both piano and vocal. The head judge usually goes over this and highlights this in a meeting, but your meeting may be filled with days, schedule, and events of weather and how the flow of the building is going to go. So just to be ahead of the game on that, I'm going to attach that for you to read and review. Switching gears. One item that came up last week is copyright compliance. I want to review that. With Xerox scores are becoming more frequent with e-print, and it's really difficult to know if they're following copyright regulations and being compliant. If you have this kind of concern, report it to the headquarters. Let them know the room that you're in, the time, the school, and the performer's name, and they'll get a hold of me and or the directors. We'll take care of it on our end. You don't have to worry about it. And again, it's not a penalty situation, so don't do any demerit or penalty for that. But we do want to know because it's the law. Readiness. It was an issue in some sites, some rooms, and some events last week. You'll have some excellent performers who are very well prepared, and you'll have some that are basically struggling through this. 2 reasons. They've not had the same amount of rehearsal time with schools going to e-learning and COVID and protocols and pandemic again with the new rise of cases. And that happened before this thing called, the storm that we just are dealing with. So they have also, many schools have closed Wednesday, Thursday, and possibly even tomorrow and Friday. So with no access to accompanists, extra final preparations, and even possibly their music. So readiness could be an issue. I ask you to be a little more flexible with that and a little more lenient as you look at the rubric and things. All right. In fact, to help with that situation, our executive committee passed some rule changes and safety measures for upcoming events. Regarding solo and ensemble, that basically only hits the ensemble judges. We figured solos could practice on their own at home. And again, that was before the storm and school closings. But with ensembles, there's very high probability that they could be missing parts. So what you want to do is adjudicate the parts and the vocal people singing that day and compare it to the score to the best of your ability. Ignore. If you don't hear the tenors, I wouldn't say that, because it could be that ensemble doesn't have any in the actual ensemble. And definitely don't mark them down on the sheet, and give the rating to the best of your ability off what you hear. We would hope that the directors would communicate that to you, give you a post-it, make a comment if they happen to be in the room, but it doesn't always happen, so you may be on your own there. That's going to be difficult at best, but again, that rule is basically allowing them to perform, and if it's a group 1 event, ensemble, vocal ensemble, they can even go to state if they receive that gold from you. Regarding ratings, for all judges, bronze should be basically used sparingly. That's the case most of the times, but we need a little more forgiveness with this weekend coming up and the situations at hand. But for our group 4 and 5 events, they're beginners. So a bronze could be kind of deflating. We want to encourage them to be lifelong singers and to do this again. So that's the primary goal with them. I'm not asking you to give up expectations. You may have a situation where they can barely get through the music. I get that. But as a general rule, use bronze very sparingly. Remember that it's kind of been 2 years since we've had solo and ensemble live events and 3 for concert events. So many directors are dealing with what they call the 3-year freshman class. There's been their freshmen, their sophomore, and their juniors that have not been through some of these live in-person events and don't understand the process, which includes their parents. So you're going to have to work with your dorm keeper and be aware that for this year, it's a new situation for so many, on top of what you may be dealing with weather considerations. So that flexibility is important. I did prepare a second video that's edited, and you'll see my face go in and out and blur. You're not going through, some time warp situation. It's just I tried to make it as clean as possible by what I said versus what you saw. Please be forgiving there as well. I don't like making these videos, but I think I found out this year it's a necessity. In that my conversation is basically to emphasize and explain some things I thought you needed to hear again, such as the use of mask. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for wearing a mask. In most of our sites, they're going to be required, and it's just not great. You're going to have that 30-minute or 2 30-minute breaks and your lunchtime where we ask you to close down the room completely. And with that, that's helping ventilation. My plea is that you just do the best you can to provide feedback and constructive help and prescriptive things to help the kids, but you can't really say things like, I can't hear your diction, or write all over the sheet, clarity of tone, not hearing balance, because even though that is possibly affected by inexperienced singers or poor breath management, you may have that as well. You don't want to refer to the mask all over the sheet. That's not a factor those students and or performers can control. So do the best you can without referring to that. Staying on time. Last week we had some really good situations with this and some success, but if you get behind, now that we're closing down for that 30-minute break or the hour lunch, you can no longer be helpful and work through your break. So that puts those parents, kids, guest, and the performer now waiting a half hour to an hour from their scheduled time before they get to come into your room. So do what you can, especially with the headache of what may happen with the weather, but I wanted you to be aware of that. Last, thank you again for being Team ISMA and putting the kids first. I've got to go. I'm going to go shovel my driveway, enjoy the 2 videos, and of course at your morning meeting, ask your head judge or host any questions you may have. Thanks so much.